Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Success Life Live. My name is Eric Reid. This is Success Life Live. We gather here every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern to help get this thing going in the right direction. What do I mean is I know that in order to live your life of success, that a lot of it is what we're thinking and what we're feeling. But if we can control the mindset, if we can program the thoughts for the day, the actions for the day, the habits that we're developing, guess what? We'll feel better. Now, I often tell my coaching clients, it's habits create behaviors, behaviors create results, results create the feelings that we want to have in our lives. We don't start with feelings, we got to start with habits, and that's what Success Life Live is all about, is developing that habit of tuning in to you and your success daily. And it brings me joy to be here with you. So good morning, everybody, and welcome. Take a minute and shout out and say hello. I'm going to try and figure out, I don't know what's happened with Facebook lately. I can't seem to see the people that are popping up in the corner. So do me a favor, say hello to each other, give a wave, give a shout out. Melanie, if you do not get vodka while you're in New York during Christmas, you're no longer my friend. I will no longer speak to you. I have nothing to do with you. You are a shame on your family. There's nothing better than Christmas vodka. If you don't know what vodka is, Google it, but let's just say it's decadence. And if you can get like the 4-foot long vodka, it lasts you till New Year's. All right, so I want to do a little bit of housekeeping while we're getting everybody logged in, saying good morning, saying hello to each other. And then we're going to start our lesson on transformation versus reform. And it's going to come out of this morning's writing. What happens during the morning writing? Somebody asked me the other day as a follow-up to, good morning, John. Good morning, Gail. Hump Day Wednesday. So I often get up early, like 4:30, I don't know, some crazy hour. And I just like to sit and read and just think and flow with the pen. So that's what it's about today. There was a lot of flowing with the pen. I need to order some more. I have a special pen that I use. But anyhow, upcoming, so some books have been arriving for Author Talk. We have Human Connection, which is how relationship marketing is transforming the way people succeed. So I'm really looking forward to this. Because I think in our social media, in our coaching, in our life-based businesses, it really is more of relationship and marketing. And then the other one, Larry sent me his second book, if you caught Author Talk last week, or the last Author Talk, it was with Larry, and this one is Selling Time, 123 Sales Strategies to Achieve Success Faster. And I like this because it has each one's like a little strategy. So it's like you don't read it cover to cover, you just grab a strategy and go. So I'll be reading into those. I've got one other I'm working on for the next one. We've got Lead Like a Superhero and Eric Kay's Let Me Sell You Something coming up in the upcoming Author Talks. And I'll post a schedule for that. If you want to get a copy of the schedule, let me know. I'll try and get it over to you. Updating it as we go. This Friday is Fun Friend Friday with John, so that'll be amazing and exciting. So glad to have you in the house. Why I take one sip to settle in and get ready. Take a moment, say good morning. Hello, Miss Julie. Hello, Peanut. Hello, Donkey. Not coffee. So, should I tell you? Should I tell you? No, I can't. Well, anyhow, so one of my favorite things to do, this is going to make me look like an old lady, but oh, what the heck. Like if by now you haven't completely realized that I'm a little crazy up here. So when you order sushi or get sushi, you know how they have the pickled ginger? Well, I love taking the pickled ginger like my grandmother used to take. You know how, mate, no, it's not mate, I need mate. You know how your grandmother used to steal the jelly from the Perkins or the IHOP? Like, well, it's on the table. They meant for us to take it. That was my grandmother. She'd always come home with a purse full of jelly and sugars. Well, I always take the pickled ginger because I love having it in hot water. So pickled ginger in hot water. It's like, it's just, so that's what it is this morning. So yes, that means I had sushi yesterday. So anyhow, So this is what it looks like when we start, folks. And today, there was actually a couple lessons downloaded. One about where leadership starts with. What I came up with was the 4 I's on intimacy, or 5 I's: intimacy, identity, intention, inheritance, and impact. A couple other things. But what I wanted to talk about was reform versus transform. And so it's interesting, as I was thinking about this, is that so often we say we want a transformational life, or we say, oh, I'm a transformational coach, or I bring transformation into people's life. And what I really see us sometimes behaving is more like reformers. And that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just an observation. And so when I think of the word reform, and I had to Google up the definition to make Google up. That's a new word y'all gonna have to keep track of. Reform is to make changes to the existing. And so I thought, wait a minute. When I'm developing a new habit, a new belief, a new mindset, am I taking the old thing, the old mindset, the old belief, the old habit, the old pattern, and trying to tweak it, trying to squeeze it, trying to alter it, trying to make it fit into this new idea, into this new image, into this new belief? I'm putting this over here, sorry. Am I building on top of the old? Now, I've been in the real estate industry for, feels like forever. And I often see people going through these remodeling projects. Well, they'll keep the center of the house and put an addition on the back, or put a second story, or, close in the garage and do this and that. And so they still have the same core house, the same center, the same kitchen, so to speak, and they put all this stuff around it. I thought, how is that reflected in my life and my beliefs and my thoughts? Am I reforming old habits, reforming old beliefs, reforming old patterns? Am I trying to just add enough new on top of the old that it looks new, but if you really peeled it back, if you really tore it down, if you really got inside the front door, you realize that there's still the same old core house, the same old core beliefs, the same old patterns and belief systems and thought processes? Am I calling it transformation when what I'm really doing is just trying to reform and modify what I'm currently comfortable with, what I currently identify with, what I currently know, and let that slip by as transformation? Because when I looked up transformation, I was digging into it, it says, make a thorough or dramatic change, and then I wrote down in the team, appearance, and character. I thought, ooh, that reads completely different. Transformation is like leveling the earth. Transformation is like, honey, we love the school district. We love the location of the grocery store. We love what we see around us. But this house, it gotta go. This is not gonna serve us. We cannot grow into this house, remodel this house, modify this house. New kitchen cabinets and windows and doors are not gonna make this a livable lifestyle for us. We gotta take it all the way down. And I think as coaches and in my industry, often we try and start with where you're at because that's where you're comfortable, and then we pile things on and we modify, we kind of mix it up and we call it transformation. When what we have a responsibility to do as success thinkers, success growers, success beers is get in there and rip it apart and say, you know what? This habit is doing me no good. It has not produced the results that I want in my life in the means and the measure that I wanted. And I'm going to quit trying to fix it. I'm going to go out and seek something new, something bigger, something better, something else. Because this ain't working. And instead of quit trying to apply cosmetic transformation, I'm going to actually begin to make transformation happen. And so again, this will probably end up in a blog today that you can check out at ericgreid.com. But I asked myself, are your habits just a reforming of old behaviors? And think you're transforming yourself to create new goals. And then I said, okay, so what does it take? So again, had to lesson myself. These are the lessons I teach myself every morning, or that I'm being taught. I'm not sure how you actually phrase it. So in order for me to break out of the habit of calling reformation or reforming transformation, what is okay, I'm done. I've got the analogy. Am I going to remodel old habits, old beliefs, old mindsets, old affirmations? Or am I willing to just gone? I want a transformational life. I want to completely and dramatically shift myself, shift my family, shift my finances, shift my team, shift my company. I want transformation. Boom. Now, if you're a person of faith, you're probably starting to see a little bit of an analogy. Anyhow, gonna let that float for y'all. But what does it take to actually begin to transform? And I wrote down, I gotta die to myself. I've gotta die to my old ways, my old thinking, my old behaviors. I've got to be willing to say, what got me here? Okay, fine, but that's not going to take me where I'm at. And I've got to be willing to let it go, release it, turn it out, turn it over, dump it on the side of the road, say, you know what? I'm going to quit carrying this thing forward just because it fits in my handle, just because it's comfortable, just because it's worn. You know, my dad used to have, I love my dad. He used to have this belt. God bless him. And, you know, he's 80 something, so he's allowed to have a little bit of a stomach. And the top of the belt would start to curl over because, you know, that's what men's belts do when you're heavy. And the top of the belt would start to curl over. And if you looked at him walking away from you, you could see that the top of the belt had worn off and bent over and it kind of sagged in the back. And we always used to tease him like, Dad, come on, let us get you a new belt. And every Christmas, a new belt would show up in his wardrobe. Or, you know, somehow there would be, the next day he would be wearing that old belt with the sag in the back and the bent. And so, you know, you had to ask him. He's like, because this one fits me. I'm comfortable. I know where it sits. And, you know, I think about that same analogy with some of the mindsets, some of the habits, some of the patterns, some of the behaviors we do. Everybody around us, from coaching to books to teachers to preachers to everybody around us, is trying to transform our lives, trying to get us into a new belt, so to speak, or into mindset, into a new belief system, into new patterns. And what do? We wake up the next morning and put on that old one and go, well, you know, it fits. I know it. I'm just going to sort of do everything else, but I got to hang on to the old. So when I talk about being transformational leaders, when I talk about creating a transformational life, when I talk about wanting to transform 2019, you got to be willing to take stuff out to the dumpster. You got to be willing to take off that grandpa belt and put it in the garbage can and be like, you know what? I got to die. I got to die to myself. I got to die to my beliefs. I got to die to my thinking. I've got to die to my mindset. I have got to dump it and die. Good morning, Miss Ursula. I got to stop and say hello to my dear friend. I don't see her often, so I'm glad to see her today. And so then I also said that, and again, you guys got to remember, this downloaded like 2 hours ago, so I'm not fully into it. I said I have to be willing to level the earth. You know, as I talked about that analogy of remodeling a house versus, you know, building it from scratch up. So often, out of our fear, out of our doubts, out of our insecurity, as we begin to move forward to creating a new life, somebody will say, what I need you to do is this. And you're like, what I need to do is this. And they're I can't. I'm like, look, we cannot build on top of these old beliefs. We cannot build on top of these old habits. We cannot build on top of this old mindset. If we start to build, it will collapse and decay. I have seen it time and time again in the real estate industry. Somebody will start to remodel a project and the rest of the house will just sag and buckle and fall apart around it because it wasn't ready for the new stress. It wasn't ready for the change and the transformation that was going on around it. The same thing will begin to happen in your life, that if you think, well, I don't need to get rid of the old. I just need to pile on new stuff. I need to reform some things. I need to shift some things. I need to cabinet cover and countertop my life. It'll look good. It'll look pretty. It'll hold for a while. But I promise you, it will not have the same value as if you had taken everything down to the earth and started over from the bottom up. You can make your life look good. You can reform your habits, your patterns, your beliefs, your systems for a while. And everybody around you will be impressed, and you'll be impressed with yourself, and you'll start, it's like people that go on crazy cucumber, lemon juice, cotton candy diets, and they lose weight, and they look good, and they have lots of energy. That's fine, but it's not sustainable. If you're really wanting transformation, if you're really wanting to have a transformed life, if you really want to talk about transformation, you got to die. The old you, the past you, the things that you did and thought have got to be buried and let gone. I know, sorry about that. In order to make room for the new you. And so when you bump into people that say, oh, I'm a transformational coach, I have transformational thinking, test them, lean in, ask them, what does that look like? Well, what I do is I look at your current habits and we modify. That's not transformation, people. That's reforming. You want transformation. You want deep. We have yes, very true, Dr. Reid. We have got to go all the way inside, rip it up, and then start over. I was looking at, again, some of my notes, that idea of being born again, that idea of transformation. We often start out with where we're at and think we're making changes when in fact the core and the center and the foundation haven't really been changed. Our actions and mindset haven't been updated. We're walking around trying to reform old things and calling it transformation. That reform doesn't really change us. Reform just modifies the current behaviors, and if the current behaviors are bad, no amount of reforming is going to really make it good. It's interesting now as I talk about it, I think back in the day when they used to send us off to reform school. Not us, like me, but anyhow, I'm not going to just fall. When they used to say, I'm sending you off to reform school, it was to modify the behavior. They didn't say we're going to send you off to transformation school where we change your core values, your beliefs, your identity, and who you align with internally. No, they said we're going to send you off to reform school because they wanted to change my behavior. They wanted to change the way I fit into the status quo. They wanted to make me look better to keep me out of trouble. They didn't want to change and create a new me. And so, are you sending yourself off to reform school? Are you going to go through transformation in 2019? Are you willing to really see yourself exposed in the mirror and be like, you know what? This thing, this belief, this value, this idea, this truth that I've been living, it's time to die. It's time it gets buried, stuck in the earth, planted over, limed, whatever. It's time it dies. And I'm not going to go back and keep picking it up and putting it back on like my dad does with his old belt, even though we keep trying to get him a new set. No, you've got to be willing to say, over, done with, gone, out the door. This is no longer who I am, what I think, what I do. You've got to be willing to forgive yourself, forgive your past, say, you know what got me here, the belief systems, the thinking, the behaviors, whatever it is helped you survive up into this moment, thank it, bow to it in gratitude, say, you know what, I appreciate you, I receive you, I accept that as who I was. But I am going to transform my life. I am going to take it all the way down to the burnt earth, and I'm going to begin to build it the way I want it. I'm not going to borrow and beg, and I'm not going to use somebody else's old leftovers. No, I'm going to create my transformation, and I'm going to awaken as a new me in my business, in my family, in my finances, in my fitness, whatever area it is. I'm going to rebirth myself. I'm going to rebirth my dreams. I'm going to rebirth my value. I'm going to transform. And don't wait until 2019. Get it done today. Start today. Make a commitment to have it happen today. Lean into it as part of today. Ask yourself, how can I begin to transform my day? How can I begin to transform my thinking, my relationships, my behaviors? Not modify, not reform, but if I was to leave my body and go look at somebody living a life that I wanted to live and watch the habits and things that they do and then bring them back into me, what would it look like? And that's honestly a big piece of what the value of having a coach and having a mentor is, good morning, Dr. Holly Kelly. Now I got to straighten my shirt. The value of having a coach is that they see you outside of you. A good coach. Now, counseling and coaching, I have a degree, but counseling and coaching are different. A good coach is not going to let you, well, you don't understand. When I was 5 years old, my dog ran out in the middle of the street and got hit, and at the same time, my mother was wearing a red dress, and as she was wearing the red dress, and live in that story as an excuse for your behavior. No, a good coach will be like, yeah, that's nice. Go to counseling if you want to deal with that feeling. You ask me to transform your life, which means I'm going to need to look at where you're at, determine what's working and determine what's not, and then take what's not and toss it in the trash. And then implement new strategies, new habits, new goals, new systems for you to begin to establish the lifestyle that you want so that you can live each and every day in success. All right? And that's what Success Life is all about. That's what I do as a coach. That's what I do as a speaker and a mentor and a trainer, is I help to bring people into alignment with that idea. I help to elevate people's awareness that what is in my life now is a result of my own action, my own thoughts, my own behaviors. And if I want it differently, I need to begin to transform myself, not reform old things into new things, thinking they're going to work out differently. It don't happen. I challenge you, as my friend Dr. Holly Kelly says. Take an old tire and switch it from the left to the right and see if it becomes a new tire. It don't. It just becomes a left tire, not a right tire. All right, well, I appreciate you guys. A great example is the butterfly. It will never return to a caterpillar. Yes, that's why he almost got the spelling of his last name right, but he got the initials perfect. And you do it so well. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. What is it you want in your life? And if you don't know what you want, you better find out, because the clock is ticking. Clock is ticking. That's all I'm saying. You can't hold it back. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Like I said, I got a comment yesterday that somebody thought fresh was better than, whatever. And so I laughed, because if you would see, these are my favorite journal books, by the way. They come from Office Depot. They're blank. I'll show it to you. So they're blank. I don't know if it shows up, except for that little tiny bar across the top. So I get to check that it's December, whatever, and I can write for 5, 6, 10 pages. And so that when I go back, I'll be like, oh yeah, that thought that I had on Wednesday. And it may take up 5, 6, 10 pages. And so I like these, and they're hardcover, and they're so anyhow. So today it was, tomorrow we'll probably do the leadership starts with, or maybe the 5 Eyes. I don't know. It just downloads. I'm going to start sharing it to you a little fresher and then type the blog instead of doing it in the opposite ways. I appreciate you guys joining me this morning for Success Life Live. If you're listening in the replay, do me a favor. Just hit replay so that I don't miss that you stopped in the room, because I like to try and connect with each and every one of you at least some point throughout the day, and just make sure that I'm adding value to you, and that if you have any questions, you always know how to gain access to me. So don't forget to hit the replay. Don't forget, if you're going to hit the share, tell people why you're sharing it. Just don't dump it in their news feed. That's kind of rude, just dumping stuff on people's news feed, or even in your news feed that people got to look through unless they know why it's there. And then remember, Don Mullins is here on Fun Friend Friday. It's going to be a phenomenal Fun Friend Friday. So don't forget to invite a couple guests to hang out with us. I tell you, Pat's, I'm still downloading. That'll probably take up a whole book on its own. That is available up on the YouTube channel. I'm changing it. I hate that word. And many of you have signed up for the Success Life Weekly, which is a newsletter. They'll go out on Tuesday mornings. It's really, and I tell you, when I say it's a newsletter, you guys will probably be a bit surprised at how plain and clean it is. Because personally, I debated, I wanted to have all the bars and dancing and borders and fun, pretty things and, all of that. And I thought, you know what? When I get those, I tend to scan and skip. I want to make sure I deliver meat, and just meat, to you guys. So it'll be a very generic looking email in your box that'll explain a tip, an idea, a thought, that will help motivate and guide you towards your success for the week ahead. So if you haven't signed up for that, do so. Just go over to ericgreid.com, spelled R-E-I-D, and you should get the little pop-up, or check in the Facebook feed below. There should be a reminder to sign up for that. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And until then, is my dear friend, mentor, coach, and friend, Dr. Holly Kale says, you take real good care of yourself. You hear? All right, go out and live your life with success. I will see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye, everybody.